All right. Good afternoon. Akujimo. Akujimo Loin. Lovely to be here. Thank God it's Friday. We're going to cover a lot of stuff before we go today. I'm going to repeat this later, but we talked about this yesterday, that today we're going to break the session into two. So we start now, we'll stop at 4, and then we'll take an hour break, and then we'll come back and continue at 5 and wrap everything up by 6:37. Okay, so that's by way of announcing, but I'm going to do that again because a lot of people will be coming in much later. All right, so we know we're going to have other people coming in later, but just wanted to put that out there. 1 second. So let's see what's happening on YouTube. If you're on TikTok, please, by the way, thank you. 1.3k likes. Thank you. It's looking good. Let's make it better. Let us make it better. All right. Hello, Jide on Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. From here, there's something I need to do. Yeah. Mo fẹ́ share kini sórí Twitter. Ẹkáàjọ share jọ. If you're on Twitter, please share the live. If you're on YouTube, please like the live and then share the live as well. Twitter, please like as well and share. So I know if a number of us are joining on Twitter, I can see you. Welcome. So please just like it, all right, and then share it. If you're on TikTok, please do the same. Let's like, let's share, and please click on the heart icon, whether you're a member or not. Please click on the heart icon, drop a gift, drop a heart me. That will help us get what we're doing to the FYP. So please kindly do that. I'll give us like another 1 or 2 minutes to get it done. Somebody says it is difficult listening to you. You lack objectivity in your analysis and it turns many of us off. Yes, I know it's going to turn those of you off. And sincerely, I'm going to tell you this. What's your name? I can't see your name. Doesn't really matter. I don't mind it turning you off. If it turns you off, you're not my target audience. That's it. If you say it's not objective, that's fine. Whatever you say is okay. But you definitely are not my target audience. So if it turns you off, stay turned off. I don't think you actually know who you're talking to. If you're looking for people that will make you happy, go to the comedy club. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of them there. But this is not the place for you. So I'm not here to pander to your ridiculous narratives. So if it turns you off, stay turned off. Make sure the door doesn't hit you on your way out because you're not necessarily meant to be here. Turns you off. Say waiting happen. So if it turns you off, what should I now do? Am I your daddy? Listen to you. I'm not sure you get what I'm saying. No. If you don't get it, it's okay. Just move along, run along. Like everything doesn't have to. It's not every product that you have to buy. It's not every service that is tailored towards your needs. You will find other people who want to tailor whatever they're doing towards your needs. So go there. It's not difficult. This is what I do. This is how I do it. If you think it's not, and by the way, you know what it feels like when elders call you and say to you certain things that, of course, you're not going to say outside because it will look like you're massaging your own ego and say, there's a way you say this thing, and the way you said it, most of us would have found it very difficult to say it that way. In other words, they think because they were there, they think I'm actually very, 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 very objective. When they say it sincerely, I'm just very happy because it's as though what I'm trying to achieve, I am doing. Like, so I know what I want to say, but at the same time, I don't want to say it in such a way that would intentionally offend people. Sorry, I didn't know this is who you are. I thought I would get objective analysis, but thanks. No, you will not get objective analysis according to your own definition of objectivity. So run along. And let that be the last thing you type on that matter. Unless, of course, you want to really run along. You go everywhere trying to bend everybody to your whims and caprices. Who do you think you are? We've heard these things. Do you know how long we've heard these things? You don't want objectivity. You want pandering. That's the truth. You can't call people stupid and think this is objective. You got to be kidding yourself. Yes. Number one, I've not used the word stupid now, but you are acting like you're one of them. You don't want objectivity. Let's be true to ourselves. Let's stop playing around. You don't want objectivity. What you really want is to shut people up. And what you call objectivity is anything that makes you out to be a victim. I can already tell where you're from. You did use the word in one of the clips I just watched. Yes, I did, and I did, and I'm telling you, I used it very good, very well. That context required that I use the word stupid. And if you act in that way, I'm also going to tell you that you are. Why am I denying it? Denying what? I think you are high on cheap drugs. Denying what because you are waiting. Hey guys, you want to buy in Nigeria. You guys are spoiled. You are spoiled. People just let things slide, and you think you can move anyhow. What I owe people is to respect them. I owe people respect. Say the way no get identity. Yeah, you want to tell me. I personally, and I respect people not because you are necessarily worth it. I do it because of me. Right? I respect you because that's how I am. And listen to yourself, you're immediately assuming I'm from the East. Ridiculous. That's the funny thing. I didn't even say you're from the East, but thank you for confirming it. You see how smart you are. I'm not sure anybody heard me say East here, but thank you for confirming it. Don't worry. The reason I'm allowing you to talk now is because I'm trying to get everything set up so that we can get into it. So, I mean, if we're going to have you as our side attraction, I have no problems with that at all. But I was saying that I think it's important to respect people, but I think you have to understand that this life does not revolve around you. The world doesn't revolve around you or your own idea of objectivity. And let me say this, a lot of people are used to a particular narrative. If you bring about another narrative, then you are not objective. And I say to them, if you think objectivity is sticking to your narrative, then this is not meant for you. It's not because I don't want you to listen to what I have to say. It's because clearly you are here to make me bend to your will. And the point is, my question to you is that who are you? Even if you are the president will not even be, I mean, a wise president will not tell you to change history, to bend to his own will. What he will tell you would be that, listen, this thing as for national unity, you say it in such a way that it don't really hurt people, which is intrinsically what the elders say when we talk. Like, okay, the way you say it, we like how you don't say it this way. So this actually is actually a very good way of saying it. And if those people are telling me I'm doing it well, who is this one riff-raff with no name? So yeah, if you're looking for your pandras, please. I'm sure that Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, social media is wide. You can find those people there. And I think that's fair enough. Okay? May God bless you and keep you on your way out. I'm not chasing you, Sha, but if you want to go, please feel free to leave and make sure the door doesn't hit you on your way out. Where were we? Your lack of objectivity is quite nauseating. Okay, at this point, I'm going to leave you alone because I think you're a child. You're just here throwing tantrums. I'm almost done what I'm doing, so I'll probably be muting you any second from now. So use the next 1 minute or so very well, because that will be the last minute you have, at least for this session. Why is he here? He's here because he thinks he's talking to his family members, people that he can just, Meanwhile, no name. You can't see his name. You can't see his identity. They just go around constituting nuisance everywhere, telling me what to say. And when you look at this person, no, let me just leave you alone. Let me just leave you alone. I'm almost done. You are the awesome wonder. No other part compares to you, perfect in all your ways. Every day, faithful, ever true, oceans applaud you. Creation declares your grandeur. Here in the splendor, we surrender to the wonder of your power. You are just making money from TikTok, that's all. The people who listen to me don't agree with you. When will you talk about the ridiculous indigene bill pushed by these Igbos? Banke, did you just wake up? That bill passed second reading in March. We spoke from March until the bill was withdrawn. The bill has been withdrawn. That's the thing. I think maybe we just started hearing about it. We've been talking about it since March, and thankfully, our advocacy and the petitions and everything that people are doing, a lot of people have been doing stuff about that particular bill, and now it has been withdrawn. And by the way, that March thing, again, we talked about it, how, it's important to also understand that there are different stages, and that in March, it passed second reading. And second reading just means that now, so the first reading is that, we have a bill, it's going to be about this, so they say, okay, we don't want it at all. We don't want to hear about it. They kill it there. Or they say, makes sense. Excuse me, let's have the second reading. Second reading means they'll just bring it, and then you tell the people sponsoring the bill will explain the bill and what it's all about. If it makes sense to the parliament, it will go to the third stage, which is the committee. In that committee, you have a committee dedicated to that particular matter. They'll discuss it. And then also you have experts, they'll consult experts, they'll have public hearing and all kinds of things. And so from March, there's been public hearings and all kinds of things, and people have been vehemently against it. So it was withdrawn, which is, a very good news, considering the fact that there's nothing good about that bill for people outside a particular region. In other words, every other Nigerian is going to get in trouble based on that bill, especially if you're from a minority ethnic group. We will just move there and say, we have become indigenous over 10 years. Before you know it, your kings are out, your traditions are out, your way of doing things are out. We can now legislate if we want to prostrate. Everything that certain people have a problem with right now that you can't do anything about, well, at that time, they will have, because no Shiwani, so they have majority. And then, what do you do? Anyway, let me end this. Before we get into the topic proper, there is a video I'd like to play. I don't know if this person understands it, but I hope you do. I think it's a fantastic way of responding to everything I've been to respond to all the things that guy has been saying. And then I assume you're a guy, maybe you're a girl, I don't know. So take a listen to this, and then we can continue with the proper event. So this is Buhari Ọmọ Musa. Tó bá gbọ́ Yorùbá tí ẹ bọ̀ nù torí Yorùbá náà fi sọ. All right, take a listen.
fẹ́ràn wa ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ kó wa jẹ nínú ìlú Àpòmù tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn wa dénúdénú ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ máa ń jà nítorí wa gbogbo yín bẹ́ẹ̀ la ṣàdúrà fún ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ sì ń sí èrè tí èsè pa àṣẹyìn àròyìn ọ̀ọ́kàn pọ̀ láìkí àwọn baba ńlá baba rẹ náà ni ẹ̀yin náà máa bá tiyín náà lọ bàbá wọ Ọlọ́run kó fi yín mọ̀nà ó sì wù ú àmẹ́yìn tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn wa Ọlọ́run bá fi yín mọ̀nà. Àmín. kò síjà ń bẹ̀ kálukú tọrọ tó wù ní tèmi nu ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn wa ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ kó wa jẹ nínú ìlú Àpòmù tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn wa dénúdénú ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ máa ń jà nítorí wa gbogbo yín bẹ́ẹ̀ la ṣàdúrà fún ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ sì ń sí èrè tí èsè pa àṣẹyìn àròyìn ọ̀ọ́kàn pọ̀ láìkí àwọn baba ńlá baba rẹ náà ni ẹ̀yin náà máa bá tiyín náà lọ bàbá wọ Ọlọ́run kó fi yín mọ̀nà ó sì wù ú àmẹ́yìn tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn wa Ọlọ́run bá fi yín mọ̀nà. Àmín. kò síjà ń bẹ̀ kálukú tọrọ tó wù ní.
All right, so okay, let's get into today's conversation. So today we're going to be talking about we're going to the part 4 of Ẹkáàbọ, Zik and Federalism, but we'll get into that conversation very soon. But before that, we're going to get into the news. We'll discuss the news, and then we'll bring people up so we can all talk about some of these things, and then we'll move on from there. So let me start with something similar to what, the conversation we had a couple of days ago. There's a young man on Twitter. His name is Tosin Olaoluwa, and he showed pictures of himself and his colleagues in Abia State doing archaeological work, and the other gentleman that was at the center of controversy, I should say. Actually happened to be one of the people that supported them in Abia State. Majority of these guys, according to him, let me read to you what Tosin wrote here. These are my friends, colleagues, and I at his field work in Abia State a few months ago. The only archaeologists here are 6, and 4 of us are Yoruba. Mr. Stanley has been supportive. Mr. Stanley has been so supportive in all our academic pursuits, and he's our big brother. He took us to his family house. So that's some Yoruba people doing archaeological work in Abia State, and they were supported by the same young man that was being castigated a few days ago. And I said earlier that I understand why he was being castigated, and it makes absolute sense, but I also think that we should be careful not to go to the extreme. So that's something I thought I should put out there before we even get into the conversation proper. So we have a lot of things to cover today, but we're not going to read everything to one, maybe because of time. Perhaps we just move swiftly. Yeah, let's move swiftly to the visit. No, only okay. Let's move to an interview on Channels Television with the former governor of Ogun State, Segun Oshoba. He said something I found very, very interesting, right? And I thought I should share it with you guys. So please take a listen to this.
I must admit that Nigeria, we are still yet to get it right. And there are many reasons why we have not been able to get it right. The way we budget is, to me, condemnable.
Also, because we've just passed another budget now. It's just been signed.
Because, one, we talk of these constituency projects. What is the business of the federal government and the people in Abuja to want to sink borehole in my village? What is their business in wanting to build primary schools in my village? Education is local, it's cultural. I started my education with my local language. So when you now vote money at the center in Abuja on all these useless projects, it's a waste.
All right. So I thought that was very, very instructive. What they said about the structure of the nation, and there's a lot of things concentrated at the center. And to be honest, these are things that local governments should be doing. So hopefully, with all the constitutional amendments going on, hopefully that would be addressed. All right, moving on swiftly, we're going to take a listen to the Minister of Power talking about the power supply project to Lagos industrial clusters. The FG just approved $238 million for that project. Please take a listen to Mr. Adebaya Delabu.
Many of the press, I say good afternoon to you all. Today at the council meeting, 4 papers were presented by the Federal Ministry of Power with regards to the reform and the development of the transformation of the power sector. And the 4 papers were duly approved. The first paper was a request to the council to approve the resumption and continuation of disbursement of compensation for right of way for the Lagos-Ogun Industrial Hub Transmission Project. The request submitted was approval for the sum of 13 billion naira. The Lagos-Ogun Industrial Hub Transmission Project is being funded through a $238 million development loan from Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA. And this project, when completed, will not only improve capacity and credibility of power supply along the industrial axis of Lagos-Ogun, it will also be a good news for industrial development and ensure that industries around that axis enjoy uninterrupted supply that will enable us to achieve the renewed hope agenda of use what we produce and produce what we use by improving local production that will substitute imports. This should be a good news for the industrial sector. And the other 3 papers were actually in respect of approval for procurement of various grades of power transformers to replace the weak and dilapidated ones across the national grid.
I mean, there's a lot more that he has to say, but essentially what he's saying is that the federal government has approved $238 million for the power supply project in the Lagos-Ogun industrial cluster. All right, moving on from that. So with that news and things like that, some people went up to talk about how a lot of things are being concentrated in Lagos. So somebody says Lagos Coastal Road is 15 trillion naira. Fixing Third Mainland Bridge is 3.6 trillion naira. Fixing Lagos Airport is 700 billion naira. Lekki Ekpe Service Lane, 158 billion, approximately 3.2 trillion loan for Lagos Light Rail. And as a northerner, if you like, vote Nobu again. And another person was gracious enough to respond to that with details about what's going on in the north. So by saying Sokoto Badagry Superhighway alone is going to cost 13 trillion. Abuja Kano Expressway dualization is 1.5 trillion naira. Kano Maradi Standard Gauge Railway is 1.9 trillion naira. Zungeru Hydroelectric Power Project is 423 billion naira. Katsina Airport runway expansion is 45 billion. Maiduguri Airport upgrade 38 billion. Kaduna Land Dry Port 38 billion, and so on and so forth. There are many other things that the government is doing in the north. And I think certain people are pushing this narrative that somehow the federal government is not, doesn't care for the north. And they use it as a way of saying that the government is focusing on the south. on the Southwest specifically, forgetting the fact that just as you're saying they're spending, all this money on Southwest and Lagos, people have to also remember that, number one, it's been done everywhere. So it's not just a Southwest. And number two, when we share money in Nigeria, we also have to ask ourselves the question, where is the money coming from? If you have this goose that lays the golden egg, does it not make sense to constantly make sure that that goose is taken care of so that it continues to, quote unquote, lay the proverbial golden eggs? Anyway, somebody, his name is Awan Hassan, he's from the north, and then he has this to say about those who are always saying, there's something about the north not getting enough and things like that. Take a listen to him.
Is a son of Kano and a member of the APC. Is live for us here in our studio. Thanks so much, Alwan, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Sean.
Is there indeed a wedge between this government and northern Nigeria?
No. This group of people,
The ACF.
are opposition. We have tackled them, we battled them under Buhari, late President Muhammadu Buhari, and we will still do it this time. They are not for the North. And that's what I want to make clear.
The elders, these are elders of the North.
They are not. We had only 6 years of elders in the North, and those are the lives of Sardauna. They are not our elders.
Bashir Dala too?
They are not speaking for the North.
The Arawa Consultative
Yes.
Forum?
Yes. And I'll take you through and I'll give you reasons why. Infrastructure is not the problem of the North. We don't need infrastructure from the federal government in the North. What we need in the northern Nigeria is unity, and they know it. Unite us. An Idoma man cannot be governor of Benue State. A Muslim in Plateau State cannot be speaker in the state assembly. A Christian minority in Borno State cannot be a governor. You are from Kwara and a Christian. Can you be a governor of Kwara State? These are our problems. Religion and tribe. Let there be one religion, one tribe, and that should be the northern Nigeria. Let them unite us. The federal government will come asking us to give them. We have 424 local governments, every of which have economic potentials to tap into it. We have vast lands. We own the land in Nigeria. Fertile, travel from here to Borno and see. Level down. When you're coming back traveling from outside, see how Borno is. That's when you start descending. See the lands in the northern Nigeria. But people cannot go to farm because Christians are killing Muslims, Muslims are killing Christians. I don't want this Christian to be this, I don't want this Muslim, this is Ibibio, this is Bra. This is the problem in northern Nigeria, and they caused it.
All right. So while everybody's talking about what's happening in the southwest and nothing is happening in the north, people like this are saying that they're actually using it for political purposes, and it's nothing true. But beyond that, there are other details I'd like to read. Lagos is Nigeria. This is from Reno Mokri, and then I'm going to read some things, and you listen to a particular audio, I should say, of the vice president. So he says here, Lagos is Nigeria's commercial capital and generates almost 50% of Nigeria's total VAT revenue. In 2024, out of an estimated 6 trillion naira VAT generated in Nigeria, Lagos alone contributed 2.75 trillion naira, or about 48%. Of that amount, Lagos only received 16%. More than 50% of the VAT generated in Lagos was paid to the 19 northern states. Neither you, talking about the guy who was shouting what was done in the West, neither you nor any other person complained when they got this money. So please do not also complain when the federal government is ensuring that Lagos, the goose that lays the golden egg, gets some projects to enable it to generate more revenue for other states. But I'll just like to read out a few more things that has been done or being done in the north. International Conference Center upgrade is 39 billion naira. The Kaduna Light Rail project, initial price is 100 billion naira. Greater Abuja Water Supply project at a price of $470 million, which is 750 billion naira. Some weekend in the FCT is doing, 135 roads constructed or reconstructed by Yesom Wike in the FCT at the cost of $1.2 billion or 1.85 trillion naira. Akwanga Jos Bauchi Gombe Road cost $1.33 billion or 2 trillion naira. the 465-kilometer Trans-Saharan road being constructed at the price of an estimated $750 million or 1.2 trillion naira. The Kano-Kaduna rail line at a price of $1.2 billion or 2 trillion naira. Gwagwalada Independent Power Plant, GIPP, a joint venture project estimated to cost $2 billion or 3.2 trillion naira. The 1,068-kilometer Ilela-Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway at a price of 13 trillion, and then the Ajaokuta-Abuja-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline at a price of $2.89 billion or 4.5 trillion naira. All right, and then of course, talk about the Gwagwalada plant. It's a 1,350 megawatt power plant being constructed, or being, joint venture between the NNPC and another company that will cost about 3.2 trillion. But this Ajaokuta thing actually caught my attention because there is plan, or there are, how to put it now? So there are plans there are plans right now to sell the Ajaokuta steel company, and I like to play something from the vice president on this matter of Ajaokuta. You know the whole problem of Ajaokuta and how it's been. Anyway, this is something from the Vice President Shetima and what the president is doing on that particular plant, company. By the way, if you have not visited that place, I think you should. It's an amazing space. Amazing. The place looks like university. Fantastic place. Lots of investment, but nothing has really come out of it. But we hope things are going to get better. But let's listen to the Vice President talk on this. Take a listen.
The president, Vice President Kashim Shettima, described the decade-long idleness of the Ajaokuta steel complex as more than an economic setback, calling it a national risk.
We have engaged other proposals from China and additional partners. A final decision is under careful review. A technical and financial audit of Ajaokuta, approved by the Bureau of Public Procurement, is currently ongoing. It will inform our next steps and shape investor selection.
He unveiled a 6-year government blueprint to revive the Ajaokuta complex, a centerpiece in the nation's quest for industrialization.
We are also concluding an arrangement with the Ministry of Defense and the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria, DIC, that will enable us to commence the production of military hardware at the Ajaokuta engineering work.
All right, so that's about Ajaokuta. We're looking forward to progress in that regard. And speaking of progress, the director of the World Trade Organization was in Aso Rock yesterday to talk to the president. Of course, that's Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She had a conversation with him, and then she also spoke to pressmen. Please take a listen to this.
Good to see you. Yes, lovely to see you. How's everything? I'm okay. How's everything? I'm okay. Good to see you. Yes, lovely to see you. How's everything? No bad. Okay.
About something very
Morning, man. Good to have you. Bless our good to see you. You're home. It's significant to have some.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was a very good visit, and thanks to Mr. President for making the time. We came to brief him about something very joyful that we did today with the help of the First Lady. We launched a Women Exporters Fund for the digital economy. This is a fund that is jointly managed by the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and the ITC, the International Trade Center. in Geneva. And the idea is to help support the economy and support women to be able to weather the storms of the economy and be able to create jobs for themselves, for others. It's part of thinking of what is a social safety net. How can we help support Nigerian women to contribute more to the economy and to themselves? So we came to brief Mr. President about this fund, which we launched. The Minister of Trade, Industry, Trade and... Oh, I was looking. It has been shepherding this effort in Nigeria, along with the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. Nigeria competed and won. One of 4 countries that won globally to be part of this new initiative. We had 67,000 Nigerian women who applied for this, and 146, can you imagine, 67,000, 146 won, and they are going to have money disbursed directly to them. 16 of them won what we call the booster track. Those who already have businesses, but their businesses will be scaled up. They will receive technical and business support for 18 months from the WTO and the ITC, and working with the ministry. So we will all work together to make sure that their businesses expand, they employ more people, they put money in their household's pocket and in the nation's pocket. Then another 100 will get directly $5,000 to scale up, to start and strengthen their business.
All right, she has some interesting things to say. She talked glowingly of the president, and then talked about the stability of Nigeria's economy, and then also talked about creating safety nets for the poor, in the nation, across the nation. And yes, somebody wrote here she's looking for nomination for a second term as WTO. I mean, if Professor Charles Soludo, an economist, said it, and Dr. Konjo-Iweala, who was also an economist, is saying that there's stability. There's a particular one I was looking for. I'll see if I can play it, because it wasn't too clear. This one is too long, so you can't really get out that particular clip. Take a listen. It's very short. I want to say something based on this. Take a listen.
Some told Nigerians that the economy is turning the corner. What's the WTO's perception of Nigeria's economy?
So we think that the president and his team, and we just exchanged with him, have worked hard to stabilize the economy. And you cannot really improve an economy unless it's stable. So he has to be given the credit for the stability of the economy. So the reforms have been in the right direction. What is needed next is growth. We now need to grow the economy, and we need to put in social safety nets so that people who are feeling the pinch of the reforms can also have some support to be able to weather the hardship. So that's the next step. How do we build social safety net to help Nigerians cushion the hardship they're feeling? And then how do we grow the economy so we can create more jobs and put more money in people's pockets? These are issues that we discussed with Mr. President.
Thank you very much. So yeah, when the person talked about our second term, is just tongue-in-cheek. He was just being sarcastic. But people are saying all kinds of things online. For instance, someone says, don't listen to her. She was a good minister during her time, but currently as WTO's DG, she works for the globalists. IMF, WHO, UN, all of them are the same thing, to protect the interest of America and the West. Again, these are people who sound when they don't really think straight. Thank you. But Tony Lumelu also said the same thing about the oil and gas industry the other day. So the idea that this will have been sponsored to say this thing just doesn't make too much sense. But again, I don't think these people really care about sense. They just want to be heard. And they're being heard, but we discovered that there's no sense in what they're saying. May God bless them and keep them. Moving away from that, I'm talking about the president. The president just took a trip to Japan and Brazil. That statement was released by the State House. And I'm looking at a video here where he just got on the plane. President Bola Tinubu departs Abuja this morning ahead of his two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. We're moving on from that. President Tinubu is set to dismiss the current NTA management team and appoint Mr. Rotimi Pedro as Director General of the NTA, Karima Bello as Executive Director of Marketing, Stella Dean as Executive Director of News, and Sophia Essa Ahmed as MD of NTA Enterprises Limited. People have gone ahead to say that this is also Yoruba. So somebody, I mean, again, number one, I'm not very keen on Grok, but Grok can, I mean, sometimes does the job. So Grok was asked, a list of the past NTA or former NTA Director Generals, and turns out that since 1999, so from 1999 to 2003 was Bemere Bruce, and it was from Bayelsa State. Tony Radia was from 2003 to 2007. It's from Edo State. Mohammed Ibrahim is from Bauchi State. He took it from 2007 to 2009. And Alhaji Musa Mayaki was 2009 to 2012. He's from Niger State. Shola Omole is Ondo State, 2013 to 2016. Yakubu Ibn Mohammed is from Plateau State. He's been there since 2016 to present. Well, okay, this is perplexity actually. So the person asked the question, and then after the answer, he has not responded to it. So we're waiting. If we find any response from these interesting characters, we're going to let you know. I'm moving away from that. Kayode Fayemi, former governor of Ekiti State, put out a statement and called it a danger of a single story. Certain things were said. It's in Tribune Online, but I don't think I want to go into all of that because the rabbit hole. Mumbo, I want to move very fast because of our time. Oh yes, so something interesting happened in the last 24 hours. There were two videos that were released, one from the campaign of organization but the one of course being led by the former governor of Kaduna State, Governor El-Rufai, and in that video he was seen sitting on the roof of a vehicle and it was being cheered. I'm looking at another video right now. This was in Zaria yesterday. The timestamp is there and everything. It's 4:17 p.m. 14th August 2025. 4:17 p.m. GMT +1. This is Zaria Kaduna. They are stoning the vehicles actually. So I don't really know. I mean, we know. Maybe people are showing the one that they want us to see, but at least we've seen this other one. Interestingly, something similar happened yesterday in Ogun State. The former governor of Osun State, Governor Rauf Aregbesola, was also in Ogun State, and believe me, his convoy was pelted. The vehicles were stoned. I mean, you can't. I don't know if you can. Anyway, the point is that so as it happened in Kaduna State, it also happened in Ogun State. Entire convoy, the stretch of vehicles were stoned, pelted by people. It shows a lot of this ADC thing. I don't really think it is what they are making it out to be. Clearly, there's something that's not quite right. Interestingly, yesterday as well, Peter Obi had spoken about people voting certain people or certain candidates into office, and he interestingly talked about the ADC candidates, which made people start asking the question, are you in ADC or in LP? But I mean, that doesn't really matter to me, to be honest, because regardless of which one it belongs, it will still fail. Right? And the guy who's talking about objectivity, that's me being objective. He's not going to become our president because he doesn't have what it takes. But may God bless him. Yeah, so that's that about that. In another news, a particular king in Yoruba land is doing something fantastic. His palace and the adjoining buildings are all on the solar grid, shall I say, and he's planning to also bring in other parts of the town into the solar power. Into the, what's it called now? The surplus that they get from that project, or from that old grid, if I can call it grid. So the king is the Olowo of Owu Kingdom. Is Professor Saka Delola Matemlola. He runs the entire palace on solar power and plans to share the surplus with his community. He's also rolling out a digital calorie token for school feeding programs, 3D printed tokens that ensure every meal reaches the right child, cutting out leakages. It's quite nice from one of our royal fathers. A few more things. Let me quickly read this one. Okay, this first. This is from Sunday Dare. He is the spokesman for the president, a special advisor, media and public communication spokesperson to President Bola Tinubu, and then he talks about the reforms that are ongoing. He titles this "Moving Nigeria from Consumption to Production: Renewed Hope World Development Program to Tackle Poverty." Mr. President Tinubu, in an address at the FEC meeting on 13th August 2025. Oh boy, this thing is long, but I'll just give you the summary. Talking about reforms to enhance economic resilience, restore macroeconomic stability, create a transparent and competitive business environment, and bolster investor confidence. So he talked about the things that they're working on and how they're collaborating with states and local government, how they intend to use savings and investment to catalyze growth, and what they're doing next. He says, "I am directing the economic management team chaired by the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy to conduct a comprehensive review of all deductions and revenue retention practices and present actionable recommendations to this council for an optimal way forward." So that's from the wall of the spokesperson to the president. If you want more information, please feel free to see that there. Another good news, Forest Guards project has taken off. That is from the NSA, Nuhu Ribadu. And someone says here, "I can confirm they recruited more than 10,000 people recently, and they were trained by military and the civil defense. They also trained on interagency cooperation, and the NHFSS has been absorbed to be NFSS. All right, so that's good news from there. Okay, I already mentioned that President Bola Tinubu has traveled for a two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. He's going with ministers and senior officials to explore opportunities to strengthen cooperation and sign agreements and memoranda of understanding, MOUs, with the Brazilian government. The Japan trip is they're having a conference in Japan from August 20 to 22, and then it will be in Brazil from August 24 to Monday, August 25. And I'd like you to take a listen to him say something about his plan for farmers and agriculture. This is the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Take a listen.
You don't have to use 18th century method for a 21st century agricultural farming. We have here over 2,000 advanced tractors, 50 industrial grade land preparation bulldozers, 12 fully equipped mobile workshops, 9,000 plus specialized farming implements. This equipment, when deployed, to empower mechanization and service providers, create job opportunities, make farmers easy and more sexy to our younger. The hallmark of a good leader is the ability to do what you have to do at the time it has to be done. You have given me the mandate to govern. Let me govern within the limit of my capacity. And I believe I have that capacity. I believe so. That's why I went into the race. I am focused, laser focused on what Nigeria needs and what I must do for Nigerians.
All right, so that's the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We're going to move away from him now and read some news from the states. The Bauchi State Governor, Bala Mohammed, has appointed a Chinese national, Mr. Li Zhensheng, as economic advisor to the state government. Good news from Enugu State. This is from the Governor, Peter Ndubi Simba. Today, we took another decisive step in transforming Enugu's transportation landscape. I had the privilege of commissioning 5 ultra-modern transport terminals: Holy Ghost Terminal 1 and 2, Nsukka, Abakpa, Nike. I don't know if it's Nike or Nike, probably Nike, and Gariki, alongside the CNG mass transit scheme, our modern transport management system, and over 80 new bus shelters. So he says this is how we connect vision to action and action to the daily lives of our over 7 million residents. Enugu is moving forward and we are moving together. Tomorrow is here. The pictures are all over the news and we're happy that that is happening in Enugu. Good afternoon, Mr. Ladale Taiwo. Good afternoon. All right. Talking of state. Okay, so there's one. Okay, I'm looking at the picture. Holy Ghost bus terminal. Good stuff. All right, so we've done Bauchi, we've done Enugu. Let's do Lagos State. So by-election is coming up, and the Commissioner for Local Government, Honorable Sadiq Maman, is talking on setting what he calls false and malicious allegations made by opposition parties regarding the upcoming by-elections. Take a listen to him.
I've seen the faces of all these press. You've been in Kaduna for ages. You know everybody. And there's no one that knows in and out of this country or the state like the press people. You know this is funny. You know who the short man is. And you know his record. People have known him. Now he has gone back to even social media politics, propaganda, instigating, insulting. Somebody that has been an executive governor elected for 8 years in Kaduna State, calling the president of this country an evil person. It's disappointing. It's very, very disappointing. He's a frustrated person. You can see him. He came in. He's frustrated because he wants power at the age of 65. A 2-time year governor, a former minister of FCT, still want to be in power. Even me, at the 60, I'm due for retirement to go back and sit down. Everybody they want power. They've been out of government 2 years. Just 2 years they are out. And we know how they hand over government to President Tinubu. Not the economy is stable, or maybe the economy is juicy. And the only thing that maybe Aswajo has done, maybe implementing the subsidy removal. And you can't run the government without the removal of that subsidy. If not, you will not be paying salaries and so on. So even the accusation they are making today that will remove millions of money from local government, that is what they've been doing in their previous administration. He thought Obasani's administration would do that. He has been a governor. So he thought what the system they are using to remove public funds from local government accounts to fund election, he thinks Obasani administration will do the same thing. He's lying. We have so many avenues of getting source of money or getting source of financing elections. We have businessmen, we have patronage people. That's why we have contractors and so on. It's the political, democratic elected government. We have a way of running elections and we have a way of running government. We don't have to take public funds to do elections. He's just lying. How can we take 30 billion naira? Each local government is this. The Commissioner for Information said we handed over to the legal people to give us some legal advice. But this is not surprising. The faces I know now, you know who is El-Rufai. Everybody has known him now. Everybody has known, they are frustrated. Even the so-called ADC before, most of them are past, they are in the past administration. Rotimi Amechi is the former governor, he's the former minister. Justice Malimi, former minister during Buhari. All of them, they are the clique of the past 2 years administration they left. What have they done to the country? What do they have on the table? Are they turning dollar to a 1 naira? We remove Aswaju, remove Aswaju, what do you have on the table? Let them tell the Nigerian press and people what they have. The coalition they are just frustrated people. None of them that doesn't have a political CV, and they never had value for over 30 years. And now people have come who are trying to make something, trying to put the country in shape. Look at Kaduna, we've united Kaduna. No any destruction or maybe, killing people along Abuja. There's no kidnapping. During RFI, they killed my daughter at NNPC Road. Everybody knows that. The state government, they even come as a stakeholder. Nobody has come to condole me. But today, there's nothing like that. There's peace in Kaduna. There's uniting. Obasani has gone to southern Kaduna. Unite the people, their elders, their pastors, their bishops. Then what else does he want? He has gotten his own time for 8 years. 8 years, and nothing. Insults, disrespect, traditional rulers, sack workers in Kaduna. Even the so-called development that you people are seeing, they say $350 million. The project is no more than $100 million. Why is the rest of the money? Thank you very much.
All right. ADC. May God help ADC, because they were just in government yesterday, and now that they are saying everybody's hungry, I think they forgot that they were the ones who were in government. Anyway, speaking of ADC, I mentioned this earlier, but I want to just read the full news. It's from Peter Obi. He says here, on the 16th of August 2025, Nigerians will go to the polling units again for the by-elections. This is expected to take place in the 16 states of the Federation, with 2 senatorial, 5 federal House of Representatives, and 9 state assembly seats available for voting. Kindly note that because the Labour Party has no recognized candidates by INEC due to the internal crisis, I humbly urge every member of Obedient and Cobdem families to go out and vote for the coalition political party, African Democratic Congress, ADC, in their respective states. And then he mentioned them in Anambra South, Onitsha North, Chikun Kajuru constituency. Those are the ones I can see right now. Now, it's quite interesting that the man who vowed and even said he would die. That was actually quite strong for him to. It's a very strong statement to make that he was going to die in Abga. And someone did move from Abga. He has moved forward. 3 times. Abga to PDP, PDP to LP, LP to ADC, and that's the person telling us to believe him. Now, may God help that political party. A few more things before we get into the conversation. A few more details about what's happening in Enugu State. 200 CNG-powered buses and 5 ultra-modern bus terminals. So 200 CNG-powered buses. So that's actually very, very good. I'm looking at videos of the buses, and I just think this is very good. And congratulations to folks in Enugu. I think that's lovely. All right, we're going to listen to the Minister of Interior before we bring people up. But before we do so, there is a statement from Michael Achimugu, who works for the NCAA. He says if you filed a refund complaint to the NCAA against any airline and it has not been resolved, kindly send me a screenshot of your email to the NCAA and let me escalate. Please, if you have any of such issues,
is that when back.
You know what? I'm going to play you what he said, so you can actually hear him say it. Take a listen.
My name is Michael Achimugu, Director of Consumer Protection and Public Affairs at the NCAA. You may recall that recently we issued a directive to all airlines, domestic and international, on their responsibilities as per first need compensation for Nigerian passengers. The instruction, as enshrined in the Part 19 of the NCAA regulations, is that when baggage is short-landed, the airline owes a responsibility to the passenger to inform them and pay them first need compensation. Domestic flights, 10,000 naira, and then the airline has 7 days to search for and reconcile the passenger with their bags. For international flights, it's $170, and then the airline has 21 days to search for and reconcile passengers with their bags. We noticed that there's been non-compliance by some airlines, and today we are here to reiterate that instruction to the airlines and also educate passengers about these rights. The fact has been that most passengers do not know these rights, and so many times they get shortchanged. The more passengers become aware of their rights and responsibilities, the better the industry becomes, and then there will be better compliance by the airlines. That's why we are here today.
All right, if you're on TikTok, please, we've got to power tab. 16.2 is good, but we've got to do better. We don't want to lose the live, so please power tab. Let's get on the FYP. One more video I'd like to play before we move on to something else would be the interview conducted by Channels Television with Honorable Dr. Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, who is the Minister of Interior. Take a listen to this. I'm going to read some of the things much later. Okay, let's do like this. Let's take it one by one. Let's start with this one.
Like, for instance, now, we never had the e-visa solution before this government came on board. And I can tell you clearly, visa coming to Nigeria is no more a problem in terms of visa if you have your document, because with e-visa solution now, people get their visas in 48 hours. It's no more secret.
On the web and on the mobile?
No, yes, on the web and on the mobile.
Do you know the web address?
No, of course, that is, don't worry, I'm not gonna mess up on this show. Don't put me I tell you, it's e-visa. No, hold on. We're on top of our game show. It's www.evisa.immigration.gov.ng. All right?
If our producers can bring it up so that Nigerians can, we can test whether or not it's working.
No, because Nigerians don't apply for visas, okay? Visas are for...
No, we just want to know whether the platform is up.
No, definitely it's working. It's up there. And I can tell you, since we came on board, since the platform went live about 2 months, going to about 3 months now, we've been able to deliver over 30,000 e-visas, about 92% success rate, which is huge in the world. That what it means is not about it's not that we had 8% failure rate. No, but like when people apply, 92% of the applicants have been able to be granted the visa. So the other ones, maybe you have fake. There are some people that submit fake documents, fake reservations. And now we call hotels, we follow up to make sure that documents. So the key issue now is that anybody can come into Nigeria within 48 hours. So anybody that says, I want to come to Nigeria for holiday, for tourism, will not tell you, oh, I'm unable to come because of visa. No, that's not true.
All right, give me a moment.
So we have been able to do that.
Yeah, give me a moment. We need to go on another break.
Service, all right? And you must bring private sector participation to this, but that is when the law allows you. So we believe that repealing and enacting a workable, a user-friendly, and a private sector-friendly, and a regulatory-friendly act will go a long way in solving more than 80 to 90% of the fire service problems.
Minister, talk to us about these visa policies, which, you saw what the United States have done in terms, and some of these countries have said is reciprocity. And United States, it's a non-immigrant visa policy has changed. The UAE, we saw what has happened in that country. Why is Nigeria experiencing these kind of treatment from some of these countries?
Well, when you talk about reciprocity, that's not true, because the U.S. came back, I think a week after the first statement, and they released another statement to say it's like the change of policy, not based on reciprocity.
Initial statement was
that's what I said. They came back. Sheila, please, let's understand this. I said they came back. All right, that means there's a rider to the original statement. Okay, so they said it's based on their own whatever. But I'll leave that to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who I believe is doing a yeoman's job. And a lot of job is going on behind the scene. There are back channel ways of resolving this. These are diplomatic issues that they're not to be resolved in front of camera. So a lot of work is going on in that regard. And I'm trusting that the necessary, the foreign affairs will, the ministry is on top, okay, of this. And the same applies to UAE. But the key issue for me is that we should focus on our own visa policy. I think that's what we have control over. And I want to actually appreciate Mr. President, because when you look at it, we have one of the most friendly visa. Create the enabling environment if INEC decides to go ahead with it.
Give us an idea of...
I mean, they talk about many things, but I think you talked about the prisons, we talked about INEC, and also talked about the visa. And it's quite interesting the way Sean was asking questions. I think he needs to up his game. He can do a lot better than this. Because, I mean, always looking for a gotcha moment sometimes doesn't necessarily mean you're doing a very good job. So, for instance, where you're saying, someone is talking about visa and you're saying, give us the name. Essentially, you're trying to recreate the Malga, the top moment. And then when the person gives you the address, you're saying Nigeria will test it. How Nigeria go test visa? They won't collect visa. Anyway, what he said about the correctional centers, I want you to just take a listen to it. It won't be very long. It's quite long, but let's play the shorter version. Take a listen.
Have their own correctional center, we can work out a synergy. You know, states that want to have their own correctional centers, by law, they are entitled to have it. So federal too. But we must also understand about 72% of our inmates are state offenders, and about 67% or so are awaiting trials, all right? So it means 2/3 are state offenders. But federal government is the one taking responsibility now. But the key issue for me is, like, I don't like to buck paths. I don't like to shift blames. You know, like Mr. President, we always say we were elected to produce results, you know, not to make excuses. So we're not here to make excuses. And but as a government, we will interface with our governors. We will come together to be able to have a shared strategy, you know, towards solving this correctional problem. But I need to put it on record that this particular administration has done a lot in the last 2 years in terms of putting resources and trying to make sure that we fix our correctional centers.
All right. Give me a moment, Minister. We need to go on break, and when we come back.
All right. So, I mean, that was the Minister of Interior, Minister Olubunmi Tunji Ojo. He mentioned how some correctional centers are over 100 years old and 12 are currently under rehabilitation. Many stuff to pick from that, but we're going to move on very swiftly. This is from the Vice President. Vice President Shettima chairs Gen U board unveils plan to connect 20 million youth to jobs by 2030. Vice President Kashim Shettima has assumed the chairmanship of the reactivated board of Generation Unlimited Nigeria, unveiling a national skills program aimed at connecting 20 million young Nigerians to jobs, training, and entrepreneurship opportunities by 2030. Speaking during the inaugural board meeting in Abuja, which coincided with International Youth Day 2025, Shettima stressed that at least 60% of the beneficiaries will be women, describing Nigeria's youthful population as a nation's superpower in a rapidly aging world. That's about it. As far as news is concerned, I was targeting 3 p.m., so it's 2:55 now. That means we're very, very good. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, please feel free to send your request. We'll bring you up, we'll talk about this, then we'll get into the topic of today. We'll have to make it very quick because we'll be taking a break at 4 p.m. and then we'll resume at 5. Like we said yesterday, just in case you were not here. So we're going to stop at 4. We'll take a break, then we'll resume at 5 p.m. All right. Meanwhile, again, no, let me leave that matter. I already talked about it. I don't think it's necessary to bring it up again. 5 p.m. Ife time. Thank you, Empress. Yes, we'll resume 5 p.m. Ife time. But I don't think anybody wants to come up, so let me just read a couple more stuff before we go into the class. into the teaching session. That was our class section of the session. All right, let's quickly do this. 2027, Tinubu will get up to 2 million votes in Southeast. That's Bola. Special advisor on policy communication to President Bola Tinubu, Daniel Bola, has expressed confidence that the president will record a significant surge in votes from the Southeast in 2027 presidential election. Speaking on Channels Television Current Affairs program on Wednesday, Bola said Tinubu could secure up to 2 million votes from the region, a figure he claimed would be at least 4 or 6 times higher than what the president got in 2023. I'm not holding my breath. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, that would be really nice. Adebayo Ogunlesi's net worth has risen to $2.5 billion after gaining $800 million from BlackRock. And I should stay a bit here before we go. So StatiSense has done this interesting stuff of giving us the unwritten power rotation agreements in Nigeria from 1999 to 2095. Please, if you're on TikTok, please power tap. We really need you to power tap. If you're on YouTube, we have 55 people on YouTube now, which is quite good. But please, I need you to like the live and also share with your contacts. But primarily, please like it. So once you do that, more people will see the live while scrolling. Thank you very much for your support. All right, so 1999 to 2007, we had a southern Nigerian president. By the way, this North and South thing actually started with PDP. It's not in the Nigerian constitution, it's PDP. But wait, somebody says, what I said, don't hold your breath. Exactly what I said, exactly. If an Igbo man is on the ballot, I don't think Tinubu would win the Southeast. But again, I mean, anything can happen in politics, but I'm not going to hold my breath because it is what it is. Almost about 90% to one candidate in the last election. That tells you a lot. Unwritten power rotation agreement, 1999 to 2007, Southern Nigeria. 2007 to 2015 was Northern Nigeria, but it was truncated. So in 2010 to 2015, we had a Southern Nigeria, that's Goodluck Jonathan. 2015 to 2023, Northern Nigeria, that's Buhari. 2023 to 2031, Southern Nigeria, which is President Tinubu. This is where it gets interesting. From 2031 to 2039, we'll have a Northern Nigeria. Northern Nigerian. From 2039 to 2047, it will be South. I mean, all things being equal, it will be Southern Nigeria. 47 to 55 North, 2055 to 2063 South, 63 to 71 North. You know, I can tell you this: 31 to 39 is definitely North. Whichever zone it will now be in the North, I don't know. 39 to 47 is South, but I can assure you, all things being equal, I am not God. All things being equal, that 2039 to 2047, it will most likely be South-South. And if they are slow, it will be Southwest. All things being equal, if we continue at the trajectory, if we continue on this trajectory, the way we are going right now, certain people have to, wait a bit. Anyway, all the way up till 2095. How old am I now? 2095 is how many years? 70? Oh, we'll still be around. We plan to grow old, very old, in strength and health and wealth, surrounded by children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. All right. All of them are doing well. So we're going to move away from all of this. There's something about the tax. I was going to play this, please. You guys need to hear this. Maybe not the full stuff, to be honest, just a part of it, because I think it's going to help us understand. I'll do more of this on Monday, if I remember. But just a little bit on about the tax system that is starting in January 2026. We need to, sensitize ourselves. And the person who just liked the live on YouTube, thank you very much. Please, the rest of us, let's do the same. Thank you. All right, let's take a listen to this statement from okay, it's Drew Bond who posted this. So he's responding to a post by Tunde Ednot. And this is what Tunde Ednot says. January 1, 2026, anyone, Nigerian or foreigner, who does business in Nigeria and earns 800,000 naira or more in a year will have to pay 20% tax on their total yearly income, whether they live in Nigeria or not. Now, that is a lie. It's actually quite interesting that a person with so much clout will still be chasing, because this has to be clout chasing, because it's blatant lies. But let's take a listen to the truth.
I think first and foremost is to say if you're a low income earner, in other words, you're working and your pay is not that substantial. At the moment, I'll say about 100 and maybe 110,000 a month. It's 1.3 million a year. If that is the level of income you earn as a worker, either in the private or public sector, once these laws are implemented, effective January 2026, you will no longer pay PAYE. So if you were paying pay as you earn, so if you were paying 4,000 naira per month, that 4,000 naira becomes part of your net salary. So you see a jump in your net salary that you take home every month. If you are not a worker and you're self-employed or you run a small business, if your turnover is no more than 50 million a year, because what we did was to do some calculations to say, assuming your net margin is 10%, how much do you really have left for yourself? This is when you take care of expenses from your income. You sold things worth 50 million, the cost of everything is maybe 45 million. You have only 5 million left. So that 5 million is 10%. We call it net margin. So thank you for reminding me. We said this person that is doing this business is also taking a risk. The stress and the headache when he's getting to the end of the month to think about paying salary, buying diesel and all of that. Let's encourage them a little bit more. So the threshold for exempting them from paying taxes is higher than if you were a worker. Because otherwise, everybody will say, why don't I just become an employee if it's easier and more rewarded? So those people will see a relief, not only from their income taxes, they will not have to charge VAT, they will not have to deduct withholding tax, and most of these people also have employees that don't even earn up to 100K a month. So in which case, they won't have to worry about pay as you earn for their staff. Just keep doing your business and we pray for you to grow. So you keep growing and then you grow to the tax net when you have the capacity to pay. For large businesses, we also haven't left them behind. Large businesses will see, there's no specific date yet, but we have the provision in the law. They will see their corporate tax rate drop from 30% to 25%. We have that in the law. Middle class, by our calculations, are people earning about 2 million naira or less a month. They will see a drop in their own pay as you earn. It won't be zero, but there will be a drop.
What percentage?
No, it will now vary. If you earn 1.5 million, your drop is lower than if I earn 500,000 because we're making it progressive. For the high net worth individuals, we also have them in mind. Even though they will pay slightly more personal income tax, they will see other benefits in the form of selling properties, buying properties. There will be no VAT. And many of them are also people who own businesses. So in other words, I own a business. You cut my tax rate by worth of 5 million, but you ask me to pay personal income tax worth additional 2 million. I'm still better off. So at the end of the day, there's something in this for everyone. And for Nigeria, the benefit for the government is you make more money, not necessarily by taxing people more, but by doing three things. One, you address evasion. Evasion is people who are just not paying taxes, even though they're making money that is liable to tax. Number two is you take care of wasteful.
So this guy stole 2 points.
All right. So that's Taiwo Idele. He's the chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. He's a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, former professor at Babcock University, and former president of Impact Africa Foundation. All right, we're going to bring people up now, and then we'll do this very quickly, get into the topic. So this is probably going to take us another 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes, because I didn't know anybody wanted to come up. When I was asking people to come up, nobody came. But it's just very quick, and then we'll move on. So let's have Tidan and Cliff. Good afternoon, ma'am and sir.
Did I request?
Yes, you did.
Oh, my dear mistake.
You were not
Sorry.
planning to.
I'm just
Okay.
listening.
No, that's okay.
Yes, I'm.
Okay, that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's have Cliff.
Okay, thank you very much, Horace. I just wanted to clear something. I think you made some very, very vital points. But what I wanted to clear is the issue you said the Southeasterners are leaving the East because their land size is a bit small. And that could be one of the reasons why they are leaving. But let's try to just oppose it or compare it. Lagos State is about 3,800 square kilometers.
That's not the only reason.
Yes, now just follow up. Now Lagos State is about 3,800 square kilometers, and it's currently perfectly infrastructurally and financially managing over 20 million Nigerians, just Lagos State, with that little landmass. Now, Imo State is almost twice the size of the land mass of Lagos State. Anambra State is about 4/8. I think what we have is people that are constantly promoting other people's land. People that are so fixated in the progress in other people's places. That's the problem. Now, look at what you just did about Enugu now. You are not an Enugu man. But do you know that it is because I was in this your life, I got to know so well what the governor is doing. Now, these people are not promoting their land. They are not saying anything about the progress going on in their land. And, you know, when you don't say these things, people do not know what happens in your place. Now, until I know, and I begin to know the investment capabilities in your place, and I know the policies you are putting in place to attract FDIs, foreign investment, external investment coming into your place. That is when I will be interested in going there. What do I go to do if you've not told me about the tourism capacity, the business capacity, and all of that going on in your place? Because all the persons in the East I follow, all I hear from them every day is Lagos, 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 Abuja, 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 Abuja. It's always about that. You hardly hear them talk about the East. Even look at Peter Obi. Peter Obi will hardly sell anything about the East to the rest of Nigeria. The entire discourse has always been the other Nigerians, but not talking about your own people. And that is where the problem is. It's not the size of their land. Because if you have an Imo state that is effectively managed, Igbos are just about 30 million Nigerians. Imo can warehouse the whole of the Igbo. If they can come back home, invest. Yes, they say they are good in terms of business. People are leaving all the way from Nigeria to Dubai to do business. So it's not all about the sea and all that. If you can have those business complexes, industries, and all of those commercial hubs within the East, which they say they are good at, the rest of Nigeria will come to the East. So they need to start building policies. They need to start looking internally on how to attract Nigerians to the East. I think that's where the problem lies, not the size of their land. Because even in my state, Delta State, they are running to my state now. If you go to Asaba, Asaba used to be a Delta city. But as I speak to you, Asaba is an Igbo city. Sorry to say this. I'm not being tribalistic, but that is just what it is. Before now, we used to pay like 300,000, 400,000 for rents in Asaba. But right now, you can't even see a proper house for 1.5 million naira because they've overrun that city. So it is policy failures that is causing this. It's not a federal problem. I keep saying this because I live close to them. It's not a federal problem. It's a generational problem that have made them not to look internally.
You know why I'm laughing?
I just feel.
You know what? I'm laughing.
Someday they have a leader.
You know why I'm laughing? I'm laughing because everything you have said is true. But I'm laughing because somebody had come here earlier to say that I'm not objective. And the only reason I try not to go into some of the details you are saying is because I was trying to be objective by just sticking to. So when I talk about the land thing, and you're going to continue, when I talk about the land thing, I was actually referring to the original reason for the migration. So originally, because you have to look at what was happening at the time, it was about agriculture, right? Now, the land is small. When I say land is small, it's not so much about the comparing Lagos and each state of the Southeast. Is like as a people, the people there, they plenty pass the land. It's a very densely populated place, right? Now, the problem is that of the land they have, which is small, they now don't have, it's not every part they have that is arable. You have ecological issues, erosion and things like that. So it's not every part that is arable. Of the arable portion, it's not every part that is fertile. And if we are talking about agrarian society, that means that they are at a disadvantage. Now, everything you said right now, I will tell you true. Every single point is a hit. You are right. But a lot of times I don't talk about it because, like you rightly noted, I'd rather tell you what the governors they are doing. If it's good, I'll quickly share it because what's my own? It's just, the point is to let people know what's happening. But I think there's one problem that's a major problem with the Southeast. You see that migratory mindset, again, that's a very mild way of saying nomadic mindset. It's something that is already deeply ingrained in the mind. Therefore, from their political history, you see this this obsession with what happens in other people's places because they are trying to make a point in other people's lands, but they rarely think about doing the same thing back home. That is the problem. So if for instance, like the first point you made, they decide not to talk about what's happening at home, it's because home doesn't really mean much to a lot of people without, but I think you get the point. Folks want to just be able to go around Nigeria and take over. It's not. So let me say it this way. As a citizen or as an indigene of a place, you have a mindset of an owner. If you keep moving around, you have the mindset of a settler. The problem with that is that you don't think about really developing your place. When they say we have mansions at home, what's the mansion for? It's not for communal development. It's just personal stuff that you have, which is not bad. I mean, it makes sense. It has its own place. But the point is that there's no collective mindset. The culture itself is individualistic. And it's something that even their own elders have said. And, sorry, there's a feedback. 1 second. Their own elders have talked about how, I'm going to have to mute you for a second. I'll mute you later. Their own elders have had to talk about how very individualistic certain people are. Again, this is not bashing. This is just fact. Like, everybody's a king, everybody's a oga, everybody is an oga. Nobody can tell me what to do. It's a cultural thing. So if you want to come out of it, that's on them. But I would, if I see something good happen in Enugu, algorithm. If I see something good happen in Abia, algorithm. But I just, like you, I should say, I also wonder why people from there don't talk about it. Perhaps it's because, like the governor of Anambra State said, 50% of their own people are out of that state. That's something. It's something chasing. Anyway, you can wrap up, Cliff, and then we can move
Let
on.
me wrap up this way. I sort of had that kind of mentality before now. Now, when I see a Fulani man move their cattle across my community, it well up that hatred for me. It gives me some kind of feeling that over time I needed to personally deal with it, because I knew at the time that it's something that was wrong with me. Why should I hate on a Fulani man? Because he's trying to make a living for himself. He's a nomad, and that is the way of life he has come to know. It is not perfect, it comes with a lot of challenges, but there are ways with which it could be settled. But also, that does not give me the leeway to not go violent against them or to hate on them. So I dealt with it personally. Now, when I see them, I just rationalize it. I think that is where the problem is. I've been with people that cannot see good in another man that is not with them. Immediately they realize you are not part of them. There is nothing on this earth that will make them see any good thing you do as good. And any person that comes to either praise you or to either give you accolades for the good things you are doing, you automatically become an enemy. It is the mindset. And I know they are elites. Their elites are beginning to distance themselves from it. Because I happen to work with these persons, the elites. The elite will tell you that is the problem they are having. You see, Ngozi Iweala actually gave President Tinubu a lot of accolades. But right now, there is a Twitter war going on. I've been reading the feeds. The feeds are very negative, and the feeds are, I wonder when Ngozi Iweala became an enemy of the East. And right now, I even saw some tweets saying that she's not an Easterner, that she's Delta.
She's not.
That's
She's
what
not
they are now using.
She's not Easterner.
But when she was doing well, she was an Easterner.
She was Igbo. When she does well, not even do well. When she does what they like, she's Igbo. When she does what they don't like, she's Deltan.
Yes, that is the trend going on. So I'm saying, because a lot of them, they are listening to me. I'm saying that this is a personal problem. Individually, they need to sort it out.
Did we lose? I think
Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
okay, we can hear you now. Yes.
Let me just wrap up quickly so that you can go to other important things. I think the problem is hate, basically. It's 8. I used to have it. I've been able to win this. But I'm praying they are able to win this 8 in their heart. For people to come that Netford is bad, for people to say that a coastal road that is coming to the Niger Delta where I belong, and one of the main food baskets of this nation, that it is not a priority for a coastal highway to come to my own Niger Delta. I just feel that there's so much ilt that they need to deal with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you. Thank you so much. It's the same thing when we talk about Nzogu. And you people say that, is he Igbo? He's not Igbo, he's Delta. And then I say that, if you really know how I think about Nzogu, if I call him Igbo, you'll be happy. Because like I always say, of all the people that planned that first coup, himself and Ademoyega, number one, he was the only one that was really successful as far as revolutionary coup was concerned. He was successful. Number two, he was revolutionary in his thinking, himself and Ademoyega, they were revolutionary thinkers. But at the end of the day, both of them lost because the original coup plotters were ethnic, they had the ethnic agenda, which was Igbo domination, to be honest. It's just the reality, unless we're deceiving ourselves. But the point I'm trying to make is this. Once you mention Nzogu, you start saying, oh, he's from Delta. He's not Igbo. Because the thing you want to say is the one that, came up with this Igbo coup. But Nzogu was not responsible for an Igbo coup. He was responsible for the revolutionary coup. Ifa, Juna, Okafor, Chukwuka, the rest of them, they were the ones, and even Ross himself were the ones in on the Igbo coup. And it worked. So the point is, if people are against Okonjo-Iweala because she's saying something good about the president, and suddenly she's not Igbo, she's Deltan, it tells you some cultures need to develop. Let's just put it that way. All right. Thank you very much for coming up, Cliff. I really appreciate your presence. We're going to move very swiftly. It's already past 3, and I said we're going to take a break at 4. Like, today's session is like a conference. We'll take a break at 4. We'll come back at 5, but we're going to end, we're going to have a very fantastic session today. All right, so let's get into this. So we've been talking about Awolowo and Azikiwe, and also, of course, their understanding of federalism. We've talked about different things, how Azikiwe talked about having 8 states, how he used his own understanding of, there's a book he published in 1943. It's called The Political Blueprint of Nigeria. And in that book, he talked about Nigeria having 8 states. And in the structure that he created at the time, he favored the Igbos over others. And Papa had mentioned it earlier. We talked about it. Please watch previous videos on YouTube to get some of that information. We also talked about the plans that they had in terms of the Yoruba people planning that, you see, we should also have this kind of thing where there is we should have a federal system, but it should be based on ethnicity. So Azikiwe's was based on geography, but he did in such a way that he put Igbo people in 2 states. One state will be a place where they have the majority. So one place will be a place where it's their ancestral land. That would be the Owerri province and Onitsha province, right? But he also put them in other provinces or another province where they didn't have, it's not their ancestral land, but they had the numbers. And that would be the Ogoja province and the other side. The essential thing that Papa was trying to make here is that while he was very careful about his own ethnic group, he didn't really care for another person's for other people's ethnic group. For instance, Yoruba people were cut into 3. The Kaba province went one way, Ilorin province went the other way, and then the central Yoruba area went another way. So essentially, from time, this is 1943, you already saw the pattern of partiality. Meanwhile, the people who do this, I won't tell you that you're not being objective. And so we're going to move very quickly. He mentioned, of course, how the EBBO, it's not in this book. By the way, the main book for this sessions, this series has been Awo, the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The book is available on Redomi Books on Telegram. Now, but we've read some things from other books as well. And one of those things we read was from a paper that was written by a history professor from Abia State University, where he talked about the evolution of different ethnic or socio-cultural groups in Nigeria. And he mentioned that in 1928, the Ibibio State Union, that Ibibio people came up with their own cultural union. By the way, they were the very first group in Nigeria to have a cultural organization, Ibibio State Union. 1928, by 31, the Urobo had their own, different groups had different, groups or different sociocultural organizations. And then by 1936, the Igbo started the Igbo unions. The Igbo unions, the Igbo unions were formed in different, states of provinces, but mostly it was always outside Igbo land. And the idea basically was that they were trying to ensure that they were properly treated and they fought for their rights, so to speak, in Lagos, in Port Harcourt. And then much later, the Igbo unions gathered together and formed something called Igbo Federal Union. And much later, it became Igbo State Union. Now, the thing about this whole idea is that while they were having their Igbo Union, again, started in 1936, by 1943, they had already had an international branch, which was in London. All this while, Yoruba people did not have anyone. Now, Yoruba people were just coming out of a very long inter-tribal war. Again, in case you're just listening to me for the first time, I do not consider Yoruba to be a tribe. Yoruba is an ethnic nationality. It's a nation that has tribes within it. So within our group, we had lots and lots of wars. It was so bad we fought ourselves for 16 years. If you wonder why we don't fight right now, it's not so much because, it's not even because of fear or cowardice like some clowns say. It's actually because we know the stories of what happened during wartime. So we usually look for a way to settle stuff, settle dispute by, like they say, judge or don't war. Until, of course, your stupidity, somebody said I used the word stupidity earlier. Yes, if you're always looking for war, oh dear, sorry, I have to switch. 1 second. One second. All right. I think we're good. Are we? Okay. Sorry about that. Something is glaring. Wombo. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. Power issues. But we're good. Where was I? So I was mentioning that the very first cultural organization was Ibibio State Union, started in 1928, and other groups came up later. The Urobo started their own in 31, other groups came up, but most of them just had this thing of cultural expressions or how to take care of their own people. But when the Igbo State Union started, it was very, very political in nature. To start with, the whole organization was more about how to assert themselves in the places where they were domiciled in order to ensure that they were, not taken for granted and stuff like that. And then, of course, they also had plans for scholarships and all of those things for themselves. But the point is that while all this was going on in different cultural organizations, in different ethnic groups, Yoruba people did not have anything like that. What we were was a disjointed group of people. And the reason, of course, was because we're just coming out of a terrible experience of intertribal wars. Like I was saying earlier that Yoruba is a nation, but inside the nation we have many tribes. So the Jebu is a tribe, the Ijesha is a tribe, Egba is a tribe, Okun is a tribe, Awori is a tribe. We have many tribes. The Ife is a tribe, Oyo is a tribe. There are many tribes within the Yoruba nation. And so we had these wars amongst ourselves. So Papa wrote in this book, it says, on leaving the shores of Nigeria, by the way, let me also quickly say that one of the reasons for this also was because of what happened with the Akinsonya and Ikoli crisis of 1941. And the idea, what happened basically was that Azikiwe was able to use tribalism for the very first time in Nigerian politics. This was in 1941. Prof, is Ibadan a sub-ethnic group? Ibadan is an amalgam of different sub-ethnic groups. It's a peculiar city. It's a peculiar city. Ife is home. Yes, Ife is home to all of us, but it also has people who actually live in that home, and those people consider it their own tribe. So there are different groups. The people in Akpomo, people in Ikwetu, all those places are under Ife. But then all of us, of course, we have Ife as our home. And to answer the question about Ibadan, so Ibadan is an amalgam of different groups. So Ibadan, Lagelu, for instance, was from Ife. But then you had other people that came from different places. For instance, Ulioli was Oyo, and even had Bariba connections. You had folks from Ijebu, you have folks from Owu. So Ibadan brought people together from different places, and that's why their own matter are different, small. So sometimes it's like, essentially, that's what it is. It's an amalgam, especially from 1829. You know, from 1829, when it was recreated, so to speak, it became this war camp that different people came into. So that's why it's very difficult to say Ibadan is an ethnicity, a tribe or not. But yeah, it's, of course, it's also a major town. It's always been a major town, and it's very big, by the way, bigger than some states, or maybe at the same size or some states. But anyway, so I was saying that one of the reasons so two things. Number one, every other person had, we have to move on. Every other person had different ethnic associations. Yoruba people did not have. That's one. Number two, during the Akinsoya-Ekoli crisis of 1941, Zik had used ethnicity to do something, and the result of what he did made it very clear that everybody was more attached to their ethnicities than the country called Nigeria. So what happened basically was that Akinsoya and Ekoli were going to run for office. Certain things happened. We discussed it in past videos, and if you watch some of our videos, you get the details. Essentially, Akinsoya was not going to be allowed to run because the president of the Nigerian Youth Movement had indicated interest in the seat in the Legislative Council in Lagos. And so when he came up with this, so when he was trying to run, they told him that, you couldn't run because the president was interested. And so Ekoli, who was an Ijaw man, but was also the president of the movement at the time, he indicated interest when Sir Akufo Abayomi left for the UK to study a course in ophthalmology. And so the seat was vacant. A lot of people were interested. He was also interested. The policy of the party, of the movement, was that if the president was interested, just let him do it. And so that was what happened. But when Zik was going to report that event, Zik said that the reason they excluded Oba Samuel Akinsoya was because he was Ijebu. And that was the first time in Nigeria's history that anybody ever used tribal identity as a basis for politicking. Not only, Zik had been doing this since 1938. Just to be clear, if you have been part of any of our sessions, you might have heard us talk about this. He has been introducing tribalism, propping up his own people since 1938 with his reportage of Jaja Wachukwu's trip to the US. He made sure he mentioned Igbo. Now, the reason that makes, to you now, that doesn't really mean anything. Was it not Igbo? Of course it's Igbo. But the thing is that, see, back in the day, during the nationalist movements, I'm Russian. During the nationalist era, when everybody was trying to gain independence and Africanize the civil service, they didn't talk so much of their tribes or ethnicities. They spoke more about Nigeria and Africa. So all of them in the nationalist organizations like NYM, NNDP, they were always talking about Africa or Nigeria, Africa, Nigeria. Zik came around and started shouting Igbo, Igbo, Igbo. And people started feeling somehow about it, like, listen, this is not how it should go. But they didn't really complain until 1940 in October. But before then, he had done some terrible stuff with reporting Igbos to be better than every other person in Nigeria. And the craziest one, of course, in my own opinion, very terrible stuff, but the craziest one was the football match that happened in 1940, where boys from Christ the King College in Onitsha had played a match with St. Gregory's in Lagos, and then they won St. Gregory College 5-4. Which, of course, it's a football match, somebody would win, but Zik turned that into ethnic superiority and said something like, this were his own words, that they had exceptionally developed brains, that they invaded the islands and that they took the cup and only the gods could tell exactly how great they were. So essentially he introduced tribalism, but by 1941, he made it very clear that, listen, beyond all this one, where don't they do? Now, because Ijebu essentially destroyed the movement, the very first nationalist organization in Nigeria, by whipping up tribal and ethnic sentiments. And at the end of the day, the Ijebu people and the Igbo people moved en masse out of NYM. And because of things like that, other people started looking at how political these ethnic organizations were. So this was 1941. By 1944, the Igbo State Union had gone beyond just, being a cultural organization with political mindset, to being a group that would actually literally sit down to draw out a plan for every every region and even ethnic groups in Nigeria. And like I said yesterday, one of the things you're going to discover when you study Nigeria's political history, and I'm rushing, and I'm doing that because of time, but I think I have to slow down. Anywhere where I stop, we'll continue by 5 p.m. So I want you to get it, so I don't just, say a lot without anybody getting it. So let me slow down a bit. By the way, what I just said right now is not to you. I'm talking to myself. Working momino, it's to help me slow down. All right. You see, in 1944, beyond just having political ambitions as a people, they then sat down to draw a plan that would lead to their own domination of other groups in Nigeria. Now, that plan was not known to anybody, but people saw how things were going and decided to also do something about having their own organization. So one of those people, of course, was Awolowo. And he started thinking of what Yoruba people should do. So he says here, on leaving the shores of Nigeria in August 1944, I resolved that I would have nothing to do with politics until I had finished my studies and made some money. I also resolved that before I again entered into politics, I will see to it that the Yorubas evolved an ethnic solidarity among themselves, just as the Ibibos and the Igbos had done. In order to ensure a strong and harmonious federal union among the peoples of Nigeria, in less than a year after I reached the United Kingdom, I set to work to translate my ideas into realities. So he talked about the group of Yoruba coming together in 1945. Dr. Oni Akerele, Dr. Abiodun Akerele, Ayotunde Rosiji, Akintola Williams, and Papa and other people came together and formed Egbe Omo Odudua in London in 1945. Now, the crazy part is, as soon as they formed that group, only one group of Nigerians had a problem with the fact that Yoruba people had their own ethnic organization. And you could guess, and your guess will be right. No matter what you say, you'll be correct. And I say that because I know there's only one group that still does the same thing, even today. The Igbos had a problem with Yoruba people having Egbe Omotutua, and they called them tribalistic. Let me read to you what, by the way, before I read to you what they said, I should say to you that the plans or the objectives of the Egbe was divided into two categories. One was for the Yoruba people, the other one was for Nigeria. For Yoruba people, they were saying they wanted to stamp out discrimination or the disintegrating forces of tribalism among or within the Yoruba group. Like I said, we had fought for so long, and thanks to Pax Britannica and the help of the British, we were, finding cohesion, but we're still suspicious of each other before 1945. We're always the same people, apparently. We have the same ancestry, the same language, the same origin story, and things like that. But the intertribal wars affected us as far as unity was concerned. And when they founded the organization, by the way, it's called Egbe Omotutua. And what it means is the Society of the Descendants of Odudua. That was the group they started in 1945. And then they had two categories in their plans or objectives. They wanted to stamp out discrimination and disintegrating forces of tribalism within Yoruba people. Number two, they wanted to study the economic resources of Yoruba land and think of how to utilize it. Number three, to plan for the improvement of educational facilities, both in content and extent, and explore the means of introducing mass education promptly and efficiently, and to foster the study of Yoruba language, culture, and history. Number four, to promote social welfare in Yoruba land and combat the cankerworm of superstition, ignorance, spread the knowledge of medical relief, and so on and so forth. For Nigeria, they had two plans. Number one was to cooperate with other regions to see that the aims that Yoruba people have for themselves, other people also have those things applied to their own regions. And then number two is to aid and encourage similar groups in the other regions in every way possible to achieve these ideals. And yesterday, we talked about the methods of doing these things, how to do with reading and research and lectures and stuff like that. But with all this thing going on, by the way, this document was published, was printed, and distributed freely amongst, Nigerians in London. But of all the groups in London, the only group that had a problem with the Egbe Moduduwa was the Igbo State Union. The crazy part was that Igbo State Union, was, like I said, was formed in 1936. In 1943, they had a branch in London, and they had a problem with Yoruba people having their own organizations. To make it even worse, there were Yoruba people who also accused Papa of tribalism. Let me read that to you. It says here, before the Egbe was founded in London in 1945, there was already a 2-year-old branch of the Igbo Federal Union there. Even so, the reaction of practically all the students from the Eastern region and some from the Western region to the formation of the Egbe was a hostile one. Being the most prominent among the founders, I was singled out for attack. I was accused of being tribalistic and of having a design to wreck the unity of Nigeria. When you say things in Nigeria today and they say you are tribalistic, the person who is talking, that child, I don't care his age, even if he's 75, that child talking is literally regurgitating what his father said in 1945. He's not saying it because you are tribalistic, he's saying it because he is tribalistic. He's projecting because he knows what he has planned. And if you don't know what they planned, we're going to get to it once I'm done with this particular portion of the reading. So they accused them of tribalism, and at the point, the Yoruba people said, you know what, let's have a meeting. Let's explain to you what we really want to do. So they had a conversation with a man called Chuba Ikwazu and another man called Mr. G. Onyuike. They were going to have a meeting with Igbo State Union, Igbo Federal Union at the time, to explain to them what Yoruba people were trying to do. They set a date, but a day before that date, they decided to postpone it. 1945, this is 2025, that meeting has not held and it will never hold, apparently. Anyway, that was in London. In 1948, they decided to establish that organization in Nigeria. Number one, okay, like I said earlier, the idea that they were even going to explain to them actually is nauseating and it will never happen again. If, excuse me, if your people come up with a plan and the Igbos don't get it, or any other group for that matter doesn't get it, I don't think it makes sense for Yoruba people to explain themselves. Like, say who you be, where I'm going to explain myself. That happened in 48, 45, it will never happen again. The idea that Yoruba people have to explain to you, meanwhile, you're doing exactly the same thing that you're insulting them. Meanwhile, the truth is that Yoruba Egbe Moduduwa was not the same thing as Igbo Federal Union. Because Egbe Moduduwa was thinking of the greatness of Yoruba people and also how other people can benefit from it. But Igbo Federal Union was designed to win at the expense of every group. And I said this before, I'll say it again. There's a particular pattern that you notice in the 30s, 40s, 50s, before independence, and then after independence in Nigeria. Based on and I've said that all of us in Nigeria really live based on the political ideology or the prevailing political ideology of our different regions in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So, for instance, when you read this document I just read now on the charter or the aims and objectives of Egbe Moduduwa, you see people want to succeed and they also want other people to succeed. They even wrote it in their own objectives. I'll read to you what they also wrote when they re-established it in Lagos in 1948. We'll get to that in a bit. When you look at the North wants to succeed. If you succeed, that's fine. If you don't succeed, it's okay. They don't really care that much, but at least they want to be okay. You to succeed, but the East wants to succeed at the expense of everybody. In other words, for the East to succeed, they must press everybody down. How do I know that? I'm going to share with you, I promise, very soon. But before I do that, let me tell you the objectives that they had in 1948 when they established the Egbe Moduduwa in Lagos. 3 points. Number one, to encourage, especially by means of scholarship, awards by the society, the pursuit of secondary and university education among Yoruba boys and girls. So they wanted to make sure that Yoruba boys and girls were educated, secondary school, university. Number two, to recognize and maintain the monarchical and other similar institutions of Yoruba land, to plan for their complete enlightenment and democratization. And three, to strive earnestly to cooperate with other ethnical associations in matters of common interest to all Nigerians, so as thereby to attain unity in federation. So when you look at those 3 points, any sane person would celebrate them. Number one, you want your children to succeed. You want them to go to uni. You want them to get educated. Number two, you want to protect the monarchy and also democratize it based on, times were changing, so they wanted them to change with the times. And then number 3, they were going to work with other ethnical associations, right? The Igbo Search Union, the Ibibio Union, the Urobo, Otwedo, any group where they get any organization like that, more work with them. Those were their plans. I thought they were good, right? Everybody thought they were good except certain people. The reaction of Dr. Azikiwe and all his supporters to the newly formed Egbe was violent beyond compare. All the leaders of the Egbe were vilified in Dr. Azikiwe's newspapers. The high water mark of the campaign was reached in the following extract from an editorial article in the Pilot of September 8, 1948. And this is what Azikiwe penned down. But now that the Egbe has made it clear that its battle is not really against Dr. Azikiwe personally, and even against Igbos as a group, but against the aspirations of the 27 million Nigerians backing up the NCNC, the time has come for real action. Henceforth, the cry must be one of battle against the Egbe Omodudua, its leaders at home and abroad, uphill and downdale, in the streets of Nigeria and in the residence of its advocates. The Egbe Omodudua is the enemy of Nigeria. It must be crushed to the earth. There is no going back until the fascist organization of Sir Adeomo Alakija has been dismembered. Again, this is a person who was leading the Igbo Federal Union. This is a person who was living in Yoruba land. This is a person who had his own organization and was Yoga, but he hated the fact that the sons of the soil were having their own organization. Apart from the newspaper attacks, there were also physical assaults on the persons of the leaders of the Egbe and damage to the houses and other property of some of them. It was absolutely impossible on nationalist grounds to reconcile Dr. Azikiwe's insensate hostility to the Egbe with his presidentship of the Igbo Federal Union and his obvious condonation of the existence of a similar organization founded in the northern region in May 1948 and called Jamia Mutanen Arewa. Somebody says here on TikTok, why is it that now when we're supposed to talk about good news or how things will go well in the country, you are dumb, Namdi? And it's a shame that you have the same name as Azikiwe, but you are very, very dumb. Where was I? While Azikiwe was against Egbe Omodudua, he was the president of Igbo Federal Union, and he had no problem with the fact that the North also had their own socio-cultural organization. But we see Yoruba people must not have anything like that. Besides, in spite of his protestations to the contrary, by the way, this book was published in 1960. Azikiwe was alive. January of that year, he was Nigeria's Senate president. And by October, he became the Governor General of Nigeria. And he had 36 years to respond to this. And when he eventually did, in 1970, he didn't say anything of worth. And I have the book he wrote as well. The book is called My Odyssey. That's his own autobiography, but nothing much to, I mean, we'll read it if we have to, but it doesn't really address, he couldn't debunk this because this was published in his own papers. Another thing he published, by the way, before I read what he published, Papa said here that besides, in spite of his protestation to the contrary, Dr. Azikiwe was himself an unabashed Igbo jingoist. And he gave the game completely away when he said inter alia in his presidential address to the Igbo Federal Union in 1949 as follows. Again, what I'm about to read right now, if you look for it online, I can assure you, you will not find it. And the reason is because certain blogs and websites have decided to doctor the speech that Azikiwe gave in 1949. But what they didn't do was take away West African Pilot or take away every other thing that people have written about that particular event. Not only did Azikiwe say it in Aba in 1949, he was bold enough to publish it in his own newspaper. And the extract is what I'm about to read in your hearing. This is what he said. It would appear that the God of Africa has specially created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. The martial prowess of the Igbo nation at all stages of human history has enabled them not only to conquer others, but also to adapt themselves to the role of preserver. Let me quickly say something here. What you just said right now, propaganda. Number one, you claim to be a nationalist, you also claim to be a Pan-African, but God has specially created your own ethnicity to lead the rest of us. That's why when they tell you forget who you are, let's be one together, they're not asking you to be one, they're asking you to forget who you are so that they can give you what they have. Is it bad to prop yourselves up? You can tell yourself that you are the best since sliced bread, but don't say that you are the best or the only one that can lead this group, and this other group should forget who they are, and we should all become one. So what you're really doing is that you're trying to recreate us in your own image and likeness, and you're not God. Anyway, he's talking about martial prowess of the Igbo nation conquering others. One of the arguments they have today is that they've never conquered others. Well, as Zik said, they conquered others. We don't have so many reports of them doing any of those things. But again, it's Zik. By the way, Papa said by 1940, one of the things that you could notice in Zik was that he was a consummate propagandist, and the very first one Nigeria produced. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but it is what it is. Let's continue with Zik's statement. He says here, the Igbo nation cannot shirk its responsibility. Politically, you have seen with your own eyes how you were disenfranchised by the British. The Igbo nation has never been represented in the Executive Council. Economically, the Igbo nation has labored under onerous taxation measures without sufficient social amenities to justify same. We have been taxed without representation, and our contributions in taxes have been used to develop other areas out of proportion to the incidence of taxation in those areas. It would seem that the Igbo nation is becoming a victim of economic annihilation through a gradual but studied progress. Now, let me quickly say that everything he said now, not true. Number one, I read yesterday, I don't have to open it today, the statement by the Governor General of Nigeria in 1947, saying that the East contributed the least. I think it rhymes. East least. Anyway, in terms of revenue, they contributed the least, but they agitated the most. They clamored for everything. And according to the Governor General in 1947, it was that region that the government was spending more on, which is why I tell people that victimhood is a tool. Victimhood is a tool. Someone's asking a question, so let me just read it out to you so it doesn't look like I'm making anything up. Give me a second. I'll quickly find that page. I don't want to lose this one. All right. So this is author Richards. Bodney, page. Wow. Okay, found it. Sir Arthur Richards was the governor and commander-in-chief of Nigeria, and he made this statement at a meeting of the Colonial Affairs Study Group of the Empire Parliamentary Association, 28th January 1947. I found that the North, which pays its taxes almost... Okay, let me take straight from the Eastern region. The Eastern provinces, the part of Nigeria which is most vocal and which clamors and calls for more education and for more of everything, is the part which contributes less than the other two regions to the general revenue, and it is also the part upon which the government has been spending most. When was this? 1947. When you hear these days, we don't have federal presence, it's not because there's no federal presence, it's because victimhood is a tool that has worked. It's been proven to work. So when I tell you hate me, then you are blackmailed into doing things that I want. Not because you hated me originally, but because that's my way of getting you to become malleable, I can twist you, I can use you, I can do anything with you because I just cry. See what you have done. So whenever you hear this victim narrative, it's because it's a weapon that has worked in the past, and that's why they keep wielding it. The day you gain information about the past is the day that weapon stops working. You'll still be compassionate, you'll be empathetic towards people, but you will not be easily blackmailed with sub-stories. All right. And so he says here that Igbo nation is becoming a victim of economic annihilation. I also said that one of the things that you have to give Zik props for is his ability to not just propagandize like other people, but to be able to join two disparate thoughts. So for propaganda to work, for the most part, you take one thing and then blow it out of proportion, right? Or you simplify it and then you make it black and white, and then you say, oh, they hate me, they don't hate me. Well, that's basic propaganda. For Zik, he was Oga. What he did was to take two things that were disparate thoughts, put them together in one sentence, and sold it to his people. One sentence, you are superior to every group. You are better than all of us. You are specially created by God. Second sentence, you are the victim of all of us. What he said in 49 is still what people do today. And when you have conversations, you can't really go far, because before you say anything, you just say that that's why you have not done anything for us. Meanwhile, you look throughout the Southeast, federal government presence is all over the place. In institutions, in buildings, in infrastructure, federal government has done a lot. And it's important for us to talk about it so we don't get bamboozled by some of these interesting narratives. All right. Moving on from that. So apart from this thing happening in 1948, something else happened in 1948, by the way. Now, if you were here about last week, I think, we talked about how this old tribal thing started in 1938. So Zik had returned to Nigeria in 1937. He joined the Nigerian Youth Movement in 1937. He started his West African pilot in 1937 as well. And everything was cool until 1938 when, like we said earlier, he started pushing Igbo agenda. By 1941, he used Ijebu and Igbo to break that movement. But all this while, it was just straight talks. You can't do this, you can't do this. There was no organ, how do you put it now, like a media outlet for Yoruba people to vent, their issues with the things that Zik was doing. But all of that changed in 1948 when the Yoruba people were now in charge of the daily service. So let me quickly read something to you from a book called Between the Ethnic and the National. This one is by Remi Adekoya. And this chapter is called The Lagos Press War and Its Aftermath. I'm not going to read everything up, obviously, but just a bit of it. It says, with regard to ethnic relations between Igbos and Yorubas, a significant event deserving special attention during the Richard's Constitution era was the so-called Lagos Press War of 1948 between Azikiwe's newspapers, in particular, the West African Pilot and the Daily Service, which had by now become the mouthpiece of the Yoruba Egbe Omoduduwa. From the inception of the Egbe in Nigeria with Awolowo as Secretary General, it faced accusations from Azikiwe and his media of ethnicizing politics. Azikiwe's media conveniently ignored the fact that an Igbo federal union with very similar objectives for the Igbos already existed at the time. Interesting, like I said earlier, Azikiwe was also the president of that union. For most of 1948, the rival papers were involved in a bitter war of words, involving personal attacks, often tainted with ethnic undertones. For instance, in response to Azikiwe's support for the establishment of a rival Yoruba socio-cultural organization, the Yoruba Federal Union, in June 1948, an editorial in Daily Service was published titled, Nnamdi Azikiwe is warned not to strain the patience of Yoruba people. If I told you that this was written last month, would you not believe it? That people from certain places have been told not to strain the patience of Yoruba people. It's a repetition. Nigerian news be like deja vu. It's like a repetition of what has happened in the past. He was against Yoruba people having Egbe Omoduduwa. He, an Igbo man, then decided to work with certain Yoruba bots to create. When we say Yoruba bot, by the way, it's not an insult. I'm just repeating what people say. They say something like, I am Yoruba bot, I'm Yoruba bot, I get it. I'm Yoruba bot, I support this. So they are people who want to be seen as smart. They're very dumb. With all due respect, in this case, I'll respectfully tell you that you're not very smart. When you have to sell your own out for the sake of being accepted by the outsider, you're not very smart. There's no concept of self-preservation. There's no concept of self-love. All you think about is pandering and being liked. Anybody who is more concerned about being liked by the outsider than taking care of his own home is a person who is not worthy of even being in that home. You can't do this. I'm Yoruba, but I want to support, which is what the other faction of Afenifere was doing the other time. We're Yoruba, but we're going to support Peter Obi. Say what's happen. So everything tí àgbàlagbà tí kọ́gbọ́n ni ó pé kó má support yẹn kankan kó má tiẹ̀ gbèsè yẹn kankan kó má gbèsè yẹn Tinubu má gbèsè yẹn kankan ọkàn dá dúró bí àgbà tẹ́ bá tẹ máa gbèsè yẹn kan ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ́ bá wọ́n kọ́ sí ogun wọn mú wá ta ló mú nǹkan wá tó ní ṣe pẹ̀lú ìdàgbàsókè ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tí ó bá ṣe Tinubu tẹ́ bá tẹ̀ wá fẹ́ ṣẹ̀lẹ̀ Tinubu it's okay, I mean you're free not to, but then again just let it be. Then you come up with this, so we are Yoruba, but we know that say waiting. That group, whatever you are seeing right now, is just a replay of what has happened in the past. There was a group of Yoruba people, you know what, let me read to you, but I was just quickly saying, a group of Yoruba people who then went to work with Zik to form another Yoruba organization that was parallel to what Yoruba people were doing for themselves. in the name of being woke, in the name of being detribalized, in the name of being fair, you are losing your own ground, but you think you are being hip. You're not being hip. You are self-destructing. You are destroying yourself, because at the end of the day, what are you going to bequeath to your children? Because the person you are doing this thing with, smart. He has a place he's going back to. You are the one who is going to lose it eventually, because you are detribalized. But his own detribalization does not allow an Ebonyi man to have a say in Anambra. But you, don't worry. You are good people, great nation. Naivety on steroids. Let's read some things here from Daily Service, June 1948. Again, the title, Nnamdi Azikiwe is warned not to strain the patience of Yoruba people. And this is what the author said. The picture that leaves me bewildered, however, is that of Zik, an out-and-out Igbo, inaugurating a Yoruba federal union. It may be said in mitigation that he had but the poorest materials out of which to erect the Yoruba federal union, having only managed to scrape together the waves and strays. I love these words, man. They had to be waves and strays. That's what I'll be calling Yoruba bots going forward. Waves and strays. I used to do it before, but I stopped. Anytime I might just use it again. He says, it may be said in mitigation that he had but the poorest materials out of which to erect the Yoruba Federal Union, having only managed to scrape together the waves and strays of the Yoruba race. He had no Yoruba unions to federate, for no Yoruba union would submit to the degradation of being federated by Zik. Nevertheless, the daring of the man is staggering. By attempting so openly to create divisions among the Yorubas, he is approaching the 0 hour of his checkered political career. He is playing with the trigger of a loaded gun, the muzzle of which is pointed ominously toward his own forehead. Can anyone imagine a Yoruba man in Onitsha or Nnewi organizing an Igbo federal union? People will do anything to destroy, to divide Yoruba people. He, in 41, used the different groups within Yoruba tribes, say Ijebuni, on against Ijebu. That's what Zik did in 41. In 48, what they did was to say they are going to take some Yoruba people to form a parallel organization. In 2023, what they did was to say there was Yoruba Christian versus Yoruba Muslims. Yoruba people, you can't blame them. You have to now ask yourselves, why is it easy for people to do that to you? By the way, 48, they couldn't do it because, apart from the fact that, of course, they got some clowns to work with them, but the majority of our people found their voice in 1948 and began to respond. It was so bad that got to a point where people started buying machetes. Whatever is happening in Lagos in 2025, when? 1948. Let's read a bit more. By September of 1948, Yoruba Igbo hostilities had escalated to such an extent, colonial authorities, including Governor McPherson, feared there was real danger of actual physical violence between Igbos and Yorubas. These fears were intensified by new radicals from both sides when they started buying up all the available cutlasses in Lagos, in readiness for clashes, and police presence was increased on the streets of the city. In response to alarms raised about mass cutlass purchases by Igbos, Azikiwe declared the brandishing of cutlasses and machetes were only for propaganda purposes. They tell a nationalist, people are buying cutlass, so Yoruba in Lagos, they want to fight. Say no, it's just for propaganda. By the way, that's a direct quote. And what I just said right now is in the Daily Times of 2nd September 1948. So the author of this book says it's a rather unconvincing explanation. By September 8, the hostilities had reached a fever pitch, with the pilot arguing in the editorial that henceforth the cry must be one of battle against Egbe Modudua, the one I read earlier. So what happened really? I'm going to have to run very soon, but let me just quickly say this. What happened really was that with the machetes being bought and everything happening, and Zik saying it's just for propaganda, on 2nd of September, when they went to meet Zik and said, your people are buying cutlasses. Of course, your people were also buying cutlasses, to be clear. It was going to be a showdown. And when they were asking Zik, like, your people are buying cutlasses, it looks like, he said it was just for propaganda purposes. He said that on 2nd September 1948. By 8th September 1948, 6 days later, Zik published that editorial that I read earlier. Let me just read part of it again. It says, henceforth, the cry must be one of battle against the Egbe Omodudua, its leaders at home and abroad, uphill and downdale, in the streets of Nigeria and in the residence of its advocates. The Egbe Omodudua is the enemy of Nigeria. It must be crushed to the earth. There is no going back until the fascist organization of Sir Ade Malakija, who was the leader of Egbe Omodudua at the time, until the organization has been dismembered. That was when people began to attack Yoruba people in Lagos. Why? Because they had the guts to establish Egbe Omodudua. People have dared things in Yoruba land to the point where they even organized another group for us, since of course we couldn't do it for ourselves. And that was not the only time it happened. What happened in 48 also happened in 67. Again, the more you see these things, the more you are able to find the pattern and connect the dots. In 67, Ojukwu sent Victor Banjo to go and liberate and rescue Yoruba land. It took Papa giving a speech in August of 1967. You find that speech in a book called Chief Obafemi Awolowo, The Political Moses. It's written by a man called Odufuwa. In that book, is it Odufuwa or Odugua? In that book, he wrote that Awolowo had to say, number one, we are not under anybody's bondage, so we don't need anybody's liberation. Number two, even if we were, we are capable of rescuing ourselves. This was in 1967 August. 19 years after Zik did what he did with Yoruba Federal Union. How is that different from what you are seeing in Nigerian politics now, especially Yoruba land? When some people tell you that they want to give you better political leadership, meanwhile you go back to their own home, there's nothing going on there. Well, thank God for people like Governor of Enugu State, who just launched the CNG buses I talked about earlier. So that's good. But the point is that I can't really compare what's happening there with what's happening in my space. And my space has a long way to go, just to be clear. But folks who are shouting good governance in your land, who are so enamored and obsessed about politics in Yoruba land, for some weird reason, and this is not just about Lagos. Last election, there were people in Osun State, in Ogun State, in Oyo State, from Igbo land, who were trying to become councillors, chairmen, House of Rep members, House of Assembly members. It's not just about Lagos. And the vehicle they used was LP. And what happened in 2023 with the conversion of a national party, Labour Party, into an Igbo party also happened in the 1940s with the conversion of NCNC into an Igbo party. Guys, it's a pattern. And if you don't believe, let me read something to you very quickly. The most significant outcome of the press war was the politicization of the Pan-Igbo Federal Union and the Pan-Yoruba Egbe nationality federations. In December 1948, at a Pan-Igbo conference, the Igbo Federal Union morphed into the Igbo State Union to organize the Igbo linguistic group into a political unit in accordance with the NCNC Freedom Charter. This naturally opened Azikiwe up to accusations from his detractors, including Awolowo, that he was in fact first and foremost an Igbo leader and not the pan-nationalist he was claiming to be, and that his NCNC party was essentially an Igbo-dominated outfit. But let me make something very clear. NCNC was never an Igbo party, and it was not formed by Zik. NCNC was formed by it was like a coalition of sorts, just like APC was CPC and ACN. NCNC was different groups, right? So you had NNDP, that was about Makoli's political party, the Nigerian National Democratic Party. You had the TUC, Trade Union Congress, which every worker belonged to. You had the Lagos Market Women Association, of course, you understand that from the name, Market Women, which was led by Alimoto Pelewura. And I'd like to also say that the woman who worked with her was Abibatu Mogaji, the president's mother. By the way, it was in the 40s. And then you now had the Nigerian student movement, right? They had folks from Abeokuta and students in Lagos. They got together, formed their own association. It was the coalition of all these people that formed the NCNC. And the first president was Abat Macaulay. It was not an Igbo party. But leave it to Zik, it would turn it into an ethnic thing. Exactly what's happening now with LP. NCNC became Igbo, not just dominated, Igbo through and through. By the time they were having elections in the 60s, it's not today's topic, but let me just mention this. Would you believe if I told you that, you should believe, and if I have the time, I'm going to bring the book another time to read it to you, how T.O.S. Benson was denied a seat in his own hometown, Ikorodu, because the Igbos in Ikorodu said they preferred an Igbo man. So they sent a message to Enugu. And guess what? They got what they wanted. They got an Igbo man to run. TOS had to run as an independent candidate in order to win a seat. You give people, certain people, give them a foot, they'll take a mile. I'm going to stop here, but let me just say this before I go. As this was going on in 48, when they were having this coalition of their own Igbo different, so they had different unions in different states, in different parts of Nigeria. They put everybody together and formed Igbo State Union. They had a plan for all of us, and that plan was designed in 1944. But in 1964, something happened, and it made them have a meeting. And in that meeting, they came up with a policy document. The Igbo State Union, they had the National Caucus. They came up with a policy document that was signed by two people, Mbadewe and Mbanugo. That document is where we're going to begin when we come back at 5. The document was signed by those two, and it became a major, it came out, by the way, in the 60s. It was discovered in the 60s. People saw it, and a lot of people started discussing it. And it came out after the coup. And it was, like yesterday, I told you 3 sources where you can find it. When I come back by 5, I'm going to explain, I'm going to tell you the names of the sources, and also we'll continue into the conversation, going into the whole idea of federalism, and then we'll get into the constitutions of Nigeria at the time, McPherson, Richards, and all of that, in order to help us understand Nigerian politics, or political history, a lot better. Thank you very much for listening. We can't bring anybody up because I have to run now because they are waiting for me. It's 4:08. We'll be back at 5, so please have fun. So we're all taking this break, right? Stretch, have lunch, have snacks. We'll come back for the next session at 5 p.m. All right. Thank you very much for being here. We'll call it a day now. And then we'll see you again 5 p.m. if a time, West African time. Thank you very much. Have a lovely break. Ashe.